Hello, and welcome to Blue Edge Radio. This is our debut show, Bringing in the Light. I'm your host, Renee Martin, and today's date is December 28th, 2009. I hope you all had a really great holiday with your friends and family and are looking forward to 2010. I myself really am looking forward to the new year, as I believe there are many, many changes in store for us. While many of us are experiencing change and shifts in our energy and consciousness, I believe the new year will bring about not only change, but awareness. I'm very pleased to bring Blue Edge Radio to the masses, and it is my goal to reach out globally on all levels with the information presented on this show. And with that, I would like to introduce a very special individual and guest that has been bringing light and awareness to the world for many years, Dr. Scott Mandelker, PhD and author. Scott was born in 1962 in New York City, completed his doctorate in East-West Psychology from the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco in 1992. His PhD combines traditional Western psychology with Eastern religions and followed his years of training in both U.S. and Asian Buddhist temples. Scott earned his BA in Buddhist Studies from Naropi Institute in Boulder, Colorado in 1987. He then moved to California, earned the MA in 1990, and began private practice in individual counseling, which he still does to this day. He has published essays on metaphysics and spiritual psychology, Eastern religions, and spiritual dimensions of ET contact. He has also presented a variety of lectures and workshops in both America and Japan. His interest in those who claim to be ETs developed from a wide study of New Age material, in which their experiences are rarely documented. His book, From Elsewhere, Being ET in America, explores perhaps the most provocative group on the UFO scene and those who consider themselves ET souls. Scott Mandelker also edits and publishes a bi-monthly newsletter, the ET Journal. Scott's website is, you can find Scott and his information at scottmandelker.com. That's ScottMandelker.com. And we will be taking calls for Scott the bottom half hour of the show. The topics of the show tonight are based on Scott's insight and intellect of ET souls, wanderers, cosmic plan, and soul evolution. Welcome to the show, Scott, and it's great to have you here tonight.
Thank you for having me, Renee, and I'm happy to be here. So,
great.
Let's talk.
Let's talk. So let's talk about From Elsewhere, being ET in America.
Okay.
Okay.
This book was published in the U.S. in 1995, and then in Japan in 97. And it was actually my PhD research from 1992 for the degree in East-West Psychology. So it's quite kind of out there for a degree in psychology. But I met and interviewed 25 people who all came to the conclusion from various experiences and what they were told and piecing things together that their soul origin is of a higher density. These could be called old souls. People use the terms walk-in, wanderer, star person, star-born, star child, indigo, crystal children. That's even a subset or a portion of this. And I basically talked to them and then detailed their path to coming to that conclusion, how it affected their life personally, in terms of relationships, in terms of life purpose, how it ended up becoming a portion of their perspective in this lifetime, and how then that relates to the present changes of consciousness and energy in society on Earth today. And so there are two main groups there, walk-ins and wanderers, of these people. The first, walk-in, I found is less common, and interestingly, there's a source called the raw material, the Law of One, which has been very important for my own thinking and understanding. they indicated that Abraham Lincoln was a walk-in, and that this was, and to me, this is a classic example of how it works when it really is so. Some people feel they're walk-ins, and I'm not sure really they are. Lincoln was supposedly, according to the source Ra, which is an extraterrestrial group, quite older than humanity and very clear in their presentation. Lincoln was in the middle of the presidency. He was totally depressed. He was going through a dark night of the soul, which is something we might talk about later. And he wished to help the Union, the country, and yet felt he couldn't do it. And it was therefore arranged in the hours of sleep that his soul would be allowed to exit early from the body and allow in a benevolent, higher dimensional soul to take over and live the rest of the life. It's not a form of possession, because it's not an example of two different souls jockeying for control, but a person who's basically leaving the vehicle and letting another driver take over. And I think that's the classic example of what walk-in is. It's a soul exchange voluntarily, no fear, no issues of domination or control, very specifically for world service. And it's a rare case because karma is being set aside. The case of and so that's the first thing. If you want to ask about walk-in, we can go into that. Otherwise, then I can give the presentation of Wanderer. How do you have
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So not really a question, but just so walk-ins basically a volunteer.
Yeah.
That they come to volunteer, and they don't have. So you've never been here before, is that right? This is their first time coming into.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it could be their first time. Newcomers or first-time souls here are often wanderers in that category, because a wanderer is basically a soul, an old soul born here or having a series of lives on Earth, born in the ordinary way, going through their lives, accumulating and clearing karma, and here for the purpose of service. The walk-in usually has more experience in handling the details of their mission or any mission of service. So
sorry.
That's okay.
Is there a common? I don't know if there's a common characteristic. It's probably the wrong word. Is there a characteristic that you think is classified as a walk-in? Like how if I walked up to somebody today and there's no real way to go to really know, or is there a characteristic to?
Well, they basically had a kind of a death and rebirth type process. The people who I interviewed that felt that they were and may well be, all were at the end of their rope in some way, with physical illness or psychological distress or deep discouragement about their life. And there was then an abrupt change, and that led them to believe, a change of consciousness, change of energy. And they are a little bit like newborn children, but that happens midway in the incarnation. And there's a distance from the early psychological problems, and there's also a great rapid awakening into a sense of potential and a desire to be of service to others. Now that also happens with a near-death experience many times.
Okay.
But yeah, there's basically a rapid shift in consciousness from dark to light.